Okay, so I know you've said you're kind of curious about the Quran,
Hmm.
but not really sure where to even begin.
Right.
You want to understand like what it's all about,
Yeah.
especially this whole idea of how it can save your life,
Okay.
both in this world and the next.
Hmm.
And the best part is you're coming in with zero prior knowledge,
I like it.
which is perfect.
Yeah.
That's what this deep dive is for.
That's right. We're diving deep into the heart of the Quran, exploring its central message
Yeah.
and what it might have to offer you.
I love it. And to make this like extra immersive, we're actually working with audio excerpts
Oh, wow.
of the Quran itself.
Okay.
It's all in Arabic, so it'll be like a sonic journey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And while the language might be unfamiliar, the core themes are surprisingly relatable.
Okay.
Think of it as like a glimpse into a world of ancient wisdom and moral guidance,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even some surprises along the way.
Okay, I'm ready to be surprised.
All right.
So when we say the Quran, what exactly are we talking about?
So the Quran is a sacred text for Muslims, believed to be the literal word of God as revealed to the Prophet Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
And it acts as a guide for believers on how to live a righteous life that is pleasing to God.
So it's more than just a book of stories.
Absolutely. The Quran covers a wide range of topics, from theology and spirituality to ethics law and social justice.
Wow.
It's essentially a blueprint for a whole way of life.
Okay, now that saving your life part in the title,
Yeah,
that's a pretty bold claim.
it is, and it goes to the very core of the Quran's message. You see, the Quran offers guidance on how to live a life that aligns with God's will.
Okay.
And that guidance is believed to lead to salvation or saving your life in both this world and the hereafter.
So there's a worldly dimension and an afterlife dimension.
Exactly. Let's start with this world. The Quran emphasizes living justly, doing good deeds, and avoiding things that are considered harmful,
Okay.
like alcohol and gambling. It also places a strong emphasis on things like family ties,
Mm-hmm.
caring for the needy, and being honest in your dealings with others.
So it's kind of like a moral compass for daily life.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It offers a framework for ethical living and navigating the challenges of our everyday interactions.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the afterlife part?
Right.
What does the Quran say about that?
The Quran speaks extensively about the Day of Judgment,
Okay.
when all of humanity will be held accountable for their actions. It describes heaven and hell,
Okay.
the ultimate destinations for those who lived righteously or wickedly.
Okay.
By following the Quran's teachings, a believer strives to earn God's favor and ultimately achieve salvation and eternal reward in paradise.
So the stakes are pretty high.
Yes.
It's about living in a way that brings peace and fulfillment in this life, but also secures your place in the afterlife.
Precisely. It's a holistic approach to life, encompassing both the physical and the spiritual.
Okay, this is starting to get really interesting.
Yeah.
I can already see how these teachings could have a profound impact on someone's life.
They absolutely can. The Quran aims to guide, to warn, and to inspire. It's a text that's been shaping lives for centuries, offering a path towards a meaningful and purpose-driven existence.
I'm definitely intrigued. But before we go any deeper, can we talk about what I'm actually going to hear in these audio excerpts?
Sure.
I mean, it's all in Arabic, so...
You're right, that's a key point. You'll be hearing the Quran in its original form as a recitation.
Okay.
It's meant to be experienced orally, the rhythms and sounds carrying meaning along with the words themselves.
Interesting.
You'll hear verses structured in chapters called surahs,
Okay.
each with its own unique themes and style.
So even if I don't understand the language, I can still appreciate the beauty of the recitation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Many people, even those unfamiliar with Arabic, find the Quranic recitation deeply moving and even spiritually uplifting.
Okay.
It has a certain power and resonance.
I'm starting to get chills just thinking about it.
And keep in mind, these verses are not just abstract pronouncements.
Okay.
They're filled with stories, parables, and teachings that bring the messages to life.
You'll hear about prophets like Noah, Moses, and Abraham, who faced challenges and triumphs, embodying the principles of faith and obedience to God.
Hold on. Noah's Ark is in the Quran.
Yes.
I thought that was a Bible story.
You're right. The story of Noah and the Ark is also in the Bible.
Wow.
The Quran retells stories of prophets found in other Abrahamic traditions,
Okay.
but from its own unique perspective. You'll also encounter parables,
Yeah.
like the one about two men, one who's unable to do good and another who strives for justice. This story highlights the themes of free will and the importance of making the right choices.
So even though I'm coming in blind, there are going to be some familiar touchstones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those familiar stories are presented in a way that can offer new insights and perspectives, even for those who've heard them before.
Okay, now my mind is really racing. I'm ready to hear some of these verses and see what jumps out at me.
Let's do it. But before we dive into the specifics,
Yeah.
are there any common questions people have about the Quran that we should address up front?
Ooh, yeah. I'm already full of questions. Great, fire away. Let's see what we can unpack.
Okay, so I'm curious how the Quran views other religions. I mean, it talks about God and prophets, but how does that relate to, say, Christianity or Judaism?
That's a question a lot of people have. The Quran actually acknowledges many of the prophets found in other Abrahamic traditions, like Jesus, Moses, and Abraham.
Oh, okay.
It views them as messengers of God who came before Muhammad.
So there's a sense of continuity there.
Yes, but it also emphasizes that Islam is the final and complete revelation from God.
Okay,
So there's both a recognition of shared roots and a distinct message.
that makes sense. Another question I have is, and this might be a bit sensitive,
Okay.
but does the Quran condone violence? I mean, you hear things in the news.
It's an important question and definitely one that's often misunderstood. The Quran does permit fighting in certain situations, like self-defense against oppression or persecution. It refers to this as just war.
So there's specific conditions.
Exactly. It's not a blanket endorsement of violence. In fact, the Quran strongly emphasizes peace, forgiveness, and reconciliation whenever possible. It even talks about treating prisoners of war with kindness and compassion.
That's a really different perspective than what you often hear.
It's crucial to remember that the Quran, like any complex text, needs to be studied and understood in context.
Okay, those are my big upfront questions. I'm feeling a lot more grounded now. But as we listen to these verses, are there any specific concepts or terms that might trip me up?
Good question. One concept you might encounter is jihad, often mistranslated as holy war, but its true meaning is much broader.
Okay, I've definitely heard that word thrown around, but I never really understood what it meant.
Jihad actually refers to striving or struggle in the path of God. It can encompass many forms of effort, including spiritual self-improvement, defending the faith, or working for social justice.
So it's not just about physical fighting.
Not at all. The greater jihad, as it's sometimes called, is the inner struggle against one's own negative inclinations and desires, striving for a higher moral and spiritual state.
Wow, that's really profound.
Yeah.
So it's more about personal growth and pushing yourself to be a better person.
Exactly. It's about aligning your actions with your values and striving to live a life of meaning and purpose.
I'm starting to see a pattern here. A lot of the Quran's teachings seem to tie back to this idea of becoming a better version of yourself.
You're picking up on a key theme. The Quran is very much concerned with personal transformation and the cultivation of virtue. It provides a roadmap for moral and spiritual development.
All right, jihad. Check. Any other potentially confusing concepts?
Another one you might come across is Sharia, often portrayed as a rigid and harsh legal system. But again, the reality is more nuanced.
Okay, yeah, Sharia law is something you hear about in the news, but it always sounds kind of scary.
Sharia literally means path or way in Arabic. It's a broad set of ethical and legal principles derived from the Quran and the teachings of Prophet Muhammad.
Okay.
It aims to guide Muslims towards a life that's pleasing to God.
So it's like a moral framework.
Exactly, and it covers a wide range of topics from prayer and fasting to marriage, divorce, and inheritance. It even provides guidelines for things like financial transactions and environmental protection.
Okay, so it's a pretty comprehensive system.
Right.
But how is it actually applied?
That's where things get a bit more complicated. The interpretation and implementation of Sharia vary across different cultures and schools of thought within Islam.
So there's not one monolithic Sharia law that everyone follows.
Precisely. It's a diverse and evolving body of knowledge, and its application depends on factors like cultural context, legal precedent, and scholarly interpretation.
This is all so eye-opening. It's like I'm finally getting a glimpse behind the headlines and stereotypes.
That's what we're aiming for. It's about moving beyond simplistic narratives and engaging with the Quran on its own terms.
Okay, I'm ready to hear some of these verses for myself. What should I be listening for as I dive in? Okay, so as we listen to these excerpts, what should I be focusing on? Is it the stories, the language, the rhythm? Where should I direct my attention?
That's a great question. Honestly, just listen with an open mind and heart, see what resonates with you. You might be surprised by the beauty and power of the Arabic recitation, even if you don't understand the words.
It's like listening to music in a language you don't know, but still feeling something?
Exactly. The Quran is meant to be experienced on multiple levels: the sonic, the intellectual, the emotional, and the spiritual.
So let's say I do start feeling something as I listen. What kind of takeaways might I have from this deep dive? What's the big picture?
Well, first and foremost, I hope you gain a deeper appreciation for the Quran as a source of inspiration and guidance for millions of people worldwide. It's a text that has shaped lives, cultures, and civilizations for centuries.
It's definitely starting to feel less foreign and more human hearing you talk about it.
That's a great point. Sometimes religious texts can feel distant and irrelevant to our modern lives, but the Quran, with its emphasis on ethical living, social justice, and personal growth, actually speaks to many of the challenges we face today.
I'm starting to see that. The idea of striving for a higher purpose, living with integrity, and contributing to a just society. Those themes resonate with me regardless of my religious beliefs.
Exactly. And even if you don't agree with every teaching or interpretation, engaging with different perspectives like this can broaden your horizons and deepen your understanding of the world around you.
So it's about more than just religion. It's about understanding humanity.
Precisely. And who knows, maybe this deep dive will spark your curiosity to learn even more. There are so many resources available, translations, commentaries, scholarly works that can provide further insights into the Quran's rich tapestry of meaning.
Well, you definitely sparked my curiosity. I feel like I've only scratched the surface, but in a good way. It's left me wanting more.
That's the beauty of exploration. There's always more to discover, more to learn, and more to ponder.
So to wrap things up, the Quran, it's complex, no doubt, but hopefully you've gotten a taste of why it holds such deep meaning for so many people. It's about connecting with the divine, living a life of purpose, and striving for a better world both now and in the hereafter.
And remember, this is just a starting point. The Quran is a text that invites ongoing study, reflection, and dialogue.
The Quran is filled with stories, laws, teachings, and so much more. What aspect would you be most interested in exploring further? Maybe we can do another deep dive someday. But for now, even if you don't agree with everything or even anything the Quran has to offer, I hope you've gained a new perspective and a deeper appreciation for the power of this ancient text. Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.